Artificial intelligence voice scams are spreading across the country and right here in North Alabama. In these scams, experts say AI replicates the voice of your loved ones.
The phone rings from an unknown number. You pick up because that's what you do. It might be important, and also your whole life you've answered the phone when it rings. And before a single conscious thought fires, before you've even registered that you don't recognize the number, your mouth opens and one word comes out. Maybe two. The call in seconds later. Click. Gone. You set the phone down. You feel mildly puzzled, maybe a little annoyed, and then you move on with your day. Because, whatever that was, it didn't seem worth thinking about. That feeling or that sense of mild weirdness, followed by nothing, is not an accident. It is the intended experience. A call was designed from the first ring to feel like that. Forgettable. Minor. The kind of thing reasonable people don't waste time on. Because the less you think about it, the better the system works. Sex. And that system, the one that just ran on you in about 4 seconds flat, is built around capturing the two words that came out of your mouth. Not your bank account number. Not your social security number. Not your address. Just those two words. The two words are yes and hello. They each do something different once they're captured, and understanding the difference is what makes the defense make sense. So let's start with yes, because the mechanism behind is specific, documented, and something the Federal Communications Commission has issued public warnings about. There is a system built around recording your voice saying that word on an unknown call. Call it the voice harvest. It works like this. A scammer, sometimes a real person, more often an automated dialing system, calls you and opens with a question engineered to pull a natural, unconsidered yes out of you. The most well-documented version is, "Can you hear me?" Simple, casual. The kind of thing you answer without thinking because it requires no thought. The moment you say yes, the recording is captured. Think of it like a locksmith cutting a blank key. The blank doesn't open anything on its own. It's just a piece of metal shaped to a rough form. But once it's cut to fit a specific lock, it opens that lock every time. Your voice saying yes is that blank. And what it gets shaped to fit is a telephone-based billing system. Certain third-party billing operators can add charges to your existing phone or utility account if they can produce evidence of verbal authorization. The scammer calls that operator, poses as you, and plays the recording. The system hears a confirmation. The charge goes through. The practice has a name: cramming. Unauthorized charges on your phone or utility bill, backed by a recording of you saying one word. Here is the before and after, stated plainly. Before the call, you are an anonymous number in a list. Nobody knows if it's a working number. Nobody knows if a real person answers it. Nobody has any record of you agreeing to anything. After the call, after you've said yes into an unknown line, you are a confirmed active number, answered by a real person, with a voice recording on file that can be presented as authorization for a charge you never consented to. That is the entire transformation. That is what 4 seconds and one word produces. The scammer doesn't need your credit card number. They don't need your account login. They need the billing pathway that already exists between your phone number and third-party charge systems. And your recorded yes is the key that opens it. When the charge appears on your bill and you call to dispute it, the operation has a recording ready to counter your objection. They claim you authorized it. The burden shifts. You are now the one who has to prove you didn't agree to something, rather than them proving you did. That reversal, that shift in who carries the burden, is the cruelest part of the mechanism. And it all starts with a question so ordinary, you answered it before you even heard it. Now for hello, and this one runs in a different direction, but it ends somewhere significantly more dangerous. When you answer an unknown call and say hello into the silence, two things happen at the same moment. The first is straightforward. You have just confirmed that your phone number is active, monitored, and answered by a live human being. That confirmation alone has market value. There are networks that buy and sell verified active numbers, lists of real people who pick up, because those numbers are far more productive targets than cold, unverified lists. The moment your number is flagged as live and responsive, it gets sold. The volume of calls you start receiving goes up. The sophistication of those calls goes up with it. But the second thing Hello produces is the one that matters more. It gives whoever is on the other end a recording of your voice, your inflection, your tone, the specific texture and quality of how you sound. And according to research published by McAfee, AI voice cloning tools are now capable of beginning to build a synthetic model of a person's voice from as little as 3 seconds of audio. Your hello, that single instinctive word spoken into a silent line, is enough to start that process. What gets built from it is not an abstract data point sitting in a file somewhere. It is a version of your voice that can be made to say almost anything. And it gets aimed directly at the people in your life who would never question the sound of you. If you have a parent, a neighbor, a sibling, or anyone in your life who would act immediately if they heard your voice in distress, hold this next part closely, because this is where the voice harvest stops being about your accounts and starts being about the people who trust you without question. Once a synthetic version of your voice exists, it goes to work in what security researchers and law enforcement call family emergency calls. Someone dials your adult child, your spouse, your closest friend, and the voice on the line is yours. It says there's been an accident, an arrest, a medical situation that requires money right now, quietly, without involving anyone else. The caller sounds frightened. The voice is unmistakably yours. The same cadence, the same accent, the same quality that your family has been listening to their entire lives. A reverse phone study published in July 2025, drawing on more than 1,000 submitted scam reports, identified AI voice cloning family emergency calls as the single most common and most financially damaging category of phone fraud currently in operation. The entry point for many of those calls was a voice sample. Short, captured during what felt to the person who gave it like an odd, forgettable call from an unknown number. One hello, one synthetic voice, one person who loves you, handing over everything they have. It is worth pausing here to say something directly, because this information can feel like it reflects badly on the person it happened to, and it doesn't. Everything described so far worked because of something good about the people it targeted. It worked because they were responsive, because they answered the phone, because they said hello when someone seemed to be there, and said yes when someone asked them a question. These are the habits of engaged, considerate, present people. This scam was not built to exploit carelessness. It was built to exploit courtesy, specifically because courtesy is universal, because it doesn't vary by age or education or income or how careful a person considers themselves to be. The operations running these calls studied the reflexes of attentive people and built an entry point that fits perfectly inside normal, unremarkable daily behavior. There was no warning sign to catch. The call was designed to produce no warning signs. Recognizing the mechanisms is not the same as recognizing that you should have known better. You couldn't have known better without someone explaining how it works. That is what is happening right now. The people who fall for the most sophisticated versions of this, the ones whose voices end up cloned, whose family members end up receiving that emergency call, are often precisely the people who pride themselves on being careful. That is not irony. That is the point. Careful people answer the phone. Careful people respond when someone asks them a question. The scam was engineered to be invisible to the kind of person who is watching for scams. Knowing that is not a reason to feel foolish. It is a reason to feel clear. Here is what you do. The defense has a name. Call it the silent open. It is 3 steps, and every one of them is something you can execute, starting with the very next call you don't recognize. Step 1, pick up and say nothing. Not hello, not yes, not who is this, nothing. Hold the phone and wait. Give it 3 full seconds of silence. A real caller, your doctor's office, your bank, a contractor you've been waiting to hear from, a family member calling from a new number will speak first. They will say your name. They will tell you who they are. That is what real callers do. A harvesting system waiting for your hello or your yes will either disconnect immediately or trigger a recorded prompt that identifies itself for what it is. The blank key never gets cut because you never handed over the material to cut it with. Step 2. If a voice on an unknown call asks, "Can you hear me?" or any variation of a question shaped to produce a yes, end the call without saying a word in response. Not no, not stop calling me, not who is this, nothing. Hang up. And if the question comes from what sounds like a real person rather than a recording, the rule is identical. A genuine caller with legitimate business does not need a yes from you before they've told you who they are. The sequence matters. Identification comes first. Your response comes after. Any call that reverses that order, any call that wants something from you before it has given you anything, is not a call worth staying on. Step 3. If you have already said yes or hello on a call that felt wrong, check your phone bill and utility statements in the next 2 billing cycles, line by line, for any charge you didn't place. Dispute anything unauthorized in writing immediately. The silent open looks and feels like this in practice. The phone rings. Unknown number. You pick up. You say nothing. 3 seconds of silence. If someone real is on the line, a scheduler, a nurse, your grandchild calling from a friend's phone, they speak. They say your name. They tell you who they are. You respond, and the call goes on normally. Nothing is lost. 3 seconds of silence costs you nothing with a real caller. But if instead you hear a recorded voice asking, "Can you hear me?" you know what that is now. You end the call. If the line goes dead the moment you answer with no words from either side, that is a harvesting ping confirming your number is live. You do not call back. The FTC has specifically cautioned against returning calls to unknown numbers that disconnect quickly, because doing so confirms your number as active, and in some cases, routes you to premium rate lines. You set the phone down. The entire sequence that would have followed, the flagging, the selling, the cloning, the emergency call to someone you love, has been stopped at the first gate by you in 3 seconds of silence. The silent open does something that goes beyond protecting your own accounts, and this is the piece worth carrying with you. If your voice never gets harvested, it never gets used to call someone who loves you in a moment of manufactured crisis. The chain that begins with your hello does not end with you. It ends with the person in your life who would believe your voice without hesitation, the one who would hand over their savings in under 2 minutes because they heard you asking for help and couldn't bear to let you down. That person exists in most of our lives. We can picture them. And the silent open is the thing that keeps your voice out of the system that would use it against them. 3 seconds of quiet when you pick up an unknown call. That is the whole defense. That is the move that severs the chain at the only point where it can be severed. Before a single word gets recorded, before the blank key gets cut, before the voice harvest has anything to work with at all. You know the 2 words now. You know that yes opens a billing pathway through a recorded authorization. And you know that hello hands over a voice sample that AI tools can clone and use to impersonate you to the people who trust you most. You know that both words get collected through calls designed specifically to feel like nothing. Because that forgettable quality is not a side effect of the scam, it is the mechanism. And you know the silent open. You pick up, you wait, you let them speak first. You give them nothing to work with. That 3-second pause is the move that breaks the voice harvest at its only vulnerable point, which is the moment before it captures anything at all. If there is someone in your life, a parent, a neighbor, a friend who answers every call because that is simply what you do, pass this along to them. Not as a warning that something bad might happen, as the thing it was for you, a clear explanation of how something works, and one simple habit that makes the whole system collapse.